The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Welcome to Icons of Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Teal. Today's guest is Sheryl Houck. She's a real estate investment strategist and founder of Cash Offer Consultants, also co-founder of A to D Investment Solutions, LLC, a technology platform and network that serves as a one-stop shop for large-scale residential acquisitions and dispositions. She's a state-certified residential property appraiser, icon real estate agent with eXp Realty, and an iBuyer relationship specialist. Welcome, Sheryl.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you for that introduction. It's great to be with you today.
Oh, it's so great to have you. You're so accomplished. This is really going to be fun to learn about things.
Oh, well, thank you. It's amazing what we can do if we apply ourselves over decades and decades and decades.
Isn't that the truth? Yes, but not everybody does have this kind of success, so that's wonderful. And I was going to ask you to kind of share your story of where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, most certainly. So I was born and raised in right outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania, very meager beginnings, raised on a farm where I learned the value of hard work. My parents are still together, still with us. What a blessing that is. And they just taught me the basic values on how to be a good human, a generous human, and the value of hard work. And I moved to Tampa, though growing up on the farm is very interesting. It's very myopic. And there was something in my belly. God put something in my belly to want more in life. And I come from a very large family. My father is the youngest of 18. My mother is the oldest gal of 7. And I think the theme there is farm help.
Wow, that's
right.
Huge family.
It
yes,
is a
built-in
huge
helpers. Family. Yes.
And I had an aunt that basically struck out of the cultural norm there. And she married this great man from New York City. And she just inspired me as she grew older, even in her 70s. She drove a yellow Corvette and she drove pink golf balls on the golf course. And she taught me to think big. She inspired me to think big. So those two things, the fire in my belly and watching my aunt build a great life of her own. And I was just truly inspired and knew that there was a better life out there. I think at the age of 20, I started to model a little bit. I became a Winston girl. I traveled the circuit. So I started to get out of my area and realizing, wow, it's a great big world. And when I was in 1995, when I was 25, I moved to Tampa and to start anew, which was super, super exciting. And did some modeling, realized that, it's a competitive world out there, need to get myself back into school, made education a priority, ended up graduating magna cum laude from University of Tampa. I paid student loan bills for a long time.
Right.
And soon after that, I took a position as a social worker, and I worked as a social worker for a couple of years, and then went through a life change. Unfortunately, I know that I'm not alone in this, but a divorce, and that social worker salary I knew would not cut it. Right. So I aligned with a friend of mine, and he taught me the ins and outs of appraisal work, and that was way back 2001, 2002. And I came into the business 20 years ago, essentially as a property appraiser, and I built a business out of it. And around the same time, I did get my sales license as well, but did not use it. I was focused on building an appraisal firm. And then came the market shift. Remember that, Patty?
Yes, I do.
And it had a serious effect on my appraisal business. And I was a single mother at that time. My boy, I remember he was 2, and I didn't have family here, and I was getting a little nervous. So I put my sales license active and worked with a company that had an international chain of property shops. And I just, out of desperation, really, I got on the phone to learn where in the world, who was selling real estate, because it had stopped here. There was really nothing happening. And I learned that the top 5 in the chain of 80 property shops, they were all in Dubai. So I got to do some researching and made some connections, and I got an offer that to go over there and sell real estate, which was a
Really? Oh my
fantastic
goodness.
experience.
I bet.
Fantastic. And I had some quick success over there. And then that was the fall of 2008. So you remember those times. That was the fall of Lehman Brothers, and just hearing all this news from abroad with a slant over in the Sharia culture was really, really mind blowing. But I was very nervous, because I knew that when America sneezes, that the effect on the economy is pretty powerful. So it was only a matter of time that it became evident that I probably should go back to American soil to lick my wounds, because under Sharia law, if you get into any type of debt and you don't repay, that is punishable by time in prison. So,
oh my, yes. Time to leave.
My son turned 3 over there. Fortunately, I did not incur any debt, but that was in 2009. So that was a 2-year plan that got cut short because of the economic dynamics. So I came back to the States, and I had rented out my townhouse before I left. So I was essentially homeless.
Oh my goodness.
And, taught my son, who was 3 at the time when we came back, that home is wherever we are together. And I really got knocked around. In fact, to get myself back to work, I was forced to apply for governmental benefits. And so I took food stamps for 3 months. I needed, particularly the impetus for going to do that was I needed to get vouchers for daycare so I could get to work. So my son would be cared for during the day. So I used that for exactly what it's intended, for 3 months, and got myself back to work. And I started managing a Century 21 office, which was a great experience. And then I then started attracting. Now, fast forward now, we did a lot of work in the distressed sales market segment, short sales, learned a whole lot. There were a lot of lessons given to a lot of realtors in those times. So as the market swung back in 2012, statistically, I think here in Tampa, the bottom of the market was January of 2012. And thankful for my valuation experience and the sales experience, because I quickly attracted some of the investors that were buying in volume. And what a gift from God that was, because I was able to achieve success in that lane quickly. And I hustled from 2012. I was driven by getting knocked around in the harder years, right? That would never happen to me again as a single mother. And from 2012 to 2018, I had a great run of doing that, hustle. So, fast forward, we now are seeing opportunities that I don't want to get back on that hamster wheel of production, but now I can create opportunities for other agents that can also have that same opportunity. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time. That combined with the passion, or with my passion, sellers not going into contract with a corporation for profit without representation. We look no further than the Better Business Bureau to learn what kind of experiences that our sellers are having when they're selling to some of these large iBuyers without representation. So I am fully convinced that that every seller needs at least a consult or representation as they're selling their house to a corporation. And that's what we've been focusing on doing lately.
Well, what a wonderful niche. And really, that's a beautiful story. I love people's inspirational stories. And I'm sure that everything that you've done in your life, from being a social worker to going to Dubai, I'm sure it's all made you who you are and better at what you do, because you are so broad in your knowledge these days.
Well, I'd like to think so. Yes, I
Yeah.
certainly have by default, sometimes
Mhm.
we're forced to make decisions, but who are we to think that the next step is supposed to be the next step, right?
Right, right. So, I don't know much about selling to corporations and what special things you have to look out for. Could you advise our listeners, because many of them are, realtors, all sorts of people in the real estate business?
Yes, most certainly. And the whole premise around cash offer consultants is we know that our sellers are receiving this message via millions and millions of dollars in marketing from some of these corporations. The corporations, we know that Zillow had a good buying run,
Hmm.
marketing directly to sellers, and Open Door and OfferPad, and there are scores of other power buyers doing this. And I just have a passion that sellers need representation, and I have a passion that agents, we need to have the ability to not only go into a listing appointment and explain to them what it looks like to go on the open market, but also you have options, seller. Mr. Seller, we can save you some on commissions. We can give you the easy button and convenience, and you don't have to do any rent or repairs. You don't have to inconvenience yourself with showings or open houses. We can get you a cash offer.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting because it is it's a complex system, because investors have different strategies and sellers have different goals.
Sure. Hmm.
So what we're doing is we're training agents on a national platform on how to marry the two.
Hmm. Wow, that's very interesting and very important for your sellers to, realize that they have those options. So we talked about the market through the years. It was very interesting. But what about right now? How are you seeing it, and how is it affecting your business?
Yeah, it's a good question. And big sigh. We are at a weird spot right now. And I think the big question, the $1 million question right now is, what is market value?
Hmm.
We know that indicative of any shift, there's a pause. And
Hmm.
we're in that pause right now because we're seeing some leading indicators trending in a different direction.
Hmm.
So we recognize fully that there is a shift going on because the inventory has increased. The
Hmm.
number of sales have gone down slightly here, and every market is so different. But here in Tampa, that's definitely the case. And so the power buyers, they're on the sidelines right now. No one wants to catch a falling knife, right?
Well, yes. Hmm. So people are a little worried, is what you're saying. They're kind of waiting to see where it's going to go. When you call it a pause pattern, they're just not sure.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing a lot of people just kind of looking around, just like measuring the GDP. Until we have 3 months of it going in a particular direction, it's tough to call.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing a lot of the corporate buyers waiting it out,
Hmm.
um, gathering information. However, there are certainly so many different dynamics on this shift than we had seen in the last shift. And we had not seen the corporate dollars in real estate the last shift that we're seeing this shift.
Right.
And I believe, in my opinion, is that you're seeing some money come out of the stock market because of the volatility there.
Sure.
And real estate has always been a safe haven for investments.
In the
So
long run, it always has been, if you hang on to it long enough. That's
that's
true.
right. That's
Hmm.
right. Real estate, if held long enough, always goes up in value. Even if the
Hmm.
improvements burn down, the
Hmm.
value, there's still value in that land, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
I think that I think that it's only a matter of time before that money starts moving again.
Sure.
So in 3 months, they have enough data to see a trend where the market is going. So then they can know, we can advise them what market value is at that
Sure.
point, and they can make better decisions. And that's what we've been focusing on in doing lately.
Well, that really makes total sense. So we chatted a little bit before the show, and one of the things you mentioned you'd like to talk about was study opportunities.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Study opportunities.
Study opportunities, like
Yes.
studying the market.
Yes. Oh, okay. I didn't know exactly where you wanted to go with that. So that was about studying the market. Okay. I didn't know if it was studying real estate and investing in that kind
That
of thing.
too,
But
all of it.
yeah.
All
But
of
studying the
it.
market. Well, that's what you're doing right now, isn't it? Studying
Yeah,
and
and I think
waiting
that
to
that's what
see.
we all need to do. We all need to be keenly aware of what is going on in our hyper local markets. You know, the one of the big things that these power buyers look at is the ratio of the average rent to the ratio of the average sales price. And the affordability had been a problem in some of these markets. And they look at job growth and what's going on in the various markets across the US. And it's interesting to watch the money flow to different cities. And you ask yourself, you know, what kind of local leadership and what are they doing to attract such great business? Dallas, for example, is doing a great job of attracting business. I think, you know, I've heard a stat that Florida alone is attracting 1,000 people a day.
Oh my goodness.
Recently there was a podcast, they were saying 1,000 people a day are going to Dallas.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's so interesting.
That fascinates me.
That is fascinating.
I like to geek out on that a lot.
So yeah. So you have a team, it sounds like, and you are a twofold business. You look for homes to buy and sell in your area in Tampa, but you also have other people that you work with across the country. Is that correct?
Yes, I just about 5 years ago, June of 2017, I partnered with EXP after discovering them in March, and just really, I was blown away at the brilliance of their model. And, you know, as a result, I was able to grow my rev share group, AKA I call it my team, because it really is a passion of mine to pour into them, especially at this time, those agents that haven't been through a shift before. You know, now is the time that we really need to collaborate, identify the opportunities that are inherent in this market, because there are a lot of them. And I think it's really important that, you know, EXP core value agile and in collaboration, that we get together and we have those conversations and we build business plans to attack, to get those opportunities. So I do have a rev share group, and most of them are here in the Tampa Bay, Orlando area. However, we do have groups in different parts of the US, which is beautiful because we can grow our teams and we can grow our rev share in any state. But, you know, with zooming out with cash offer consultants, what I love so much too about EXP is that we have as the largest independent real estate brokerage that's licensed in all 50 states, and I think now 19 countries, we have a platform that enables us to do things that other fragmented, siloed brokerage systems can't. They cannot. So that allowed me to build a team on a national platform that we can communicate in one office, our EXP world, our metaverse world, and just build out that national team, rippling down, duplicating what I have been doing here in the local Tampa market. So serving sellers, creating opportunities for agents, and that's been fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's so very cool. So how do you attract these agents? How do they get to know about you? Because you would be fabulous to work with. You have had so many years of experience and are obviously so knowledgeable, but how do they find you?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. I am very active on social media as a single mother with no family around for many, many, many years. I built my business on Facebook and real estate referrals. And again, I'm dating myself. But I can be reached through Messenger. Messenger is probably the best way to get in contact with me. Unless you're with
Mhm.
EXP, then Workplace Messenger is the best place to contact me.
Okay, very cool. So I know that a lot of places really had a big boom in their value, and I read that Tampa was one of the main ones in Florida that really went up. What's the average median price of a home there now?
That is a good question. And of course, in the hyper markets, it varies. And I
Sure.
focus a lot on the surrounding markets, surrounding Tampa, those areas that investors are getting a return on their rents.
I see.
So right now we're seeing, 430,000-ish.
Hmm.
And, and that really, relatively speaking, is quite affordable if you're
Hmm.
comparing it to California or New York, New Jersey, Washington State. And I think that directly, that is exactly why that we've had such appreciation, because we are still so affordable.
Right. I love that about Florida. And I know it's gone up, and a lot of people, you hear a lot of news stories there worried about their rents going up so much, but still so many people can afford to buy homes in Florida. I hope it doesn't become the next California. I know you study trends. Are you looking that far ahead? Do you think it will become like that?
Well, at some point, I believe every single one of us needs to get our hands on real estate and don't
Mm-hmm.
sell the real estate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's that's a really good piece of advice, isn't it? Yeah. So long as you have that, you've got something, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a rental, as a hedge, you leverage equity out of it to make other investments or as needed.
Mhm,
It just
mhm,
I wish I had learned that much earlier in my life.
mhm.
Nonetheless, I'm certainly making up for lost time.
Well, good for you. Yes.
Thank you,
Well, you
Patty.
mentioned earlier, you said there are just so many opportunities, and it was a broad statement. Um, because I know you have people in various parts of the country, but when you think about those exciting opportunities, what are you thinking of?
Well, I believe that there are a lot of sellers that are going to need our help going
Okay.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are a lot of people that are suffering, sadly enough, and
Mm-hmm.
they need good advice. And what was the statistic that I read yesterday? The equity in the home, I think average nationally was 280,000. That the average equity somebody has in their home is 280,000. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's all relative. That's such a general, broad statistic, but
Right.
there are a lot of sellers that are struggling right now, month to month,
Mm-hmm.
because certain job situations. And I think that we need to come from a place where we're really creating value, a place where we are problem solvers, professional problem solvers, and
Mm-hmm.
and help them. And if it means leveraging some equity from their house without having a sale, by all means, you do what's in the best interest of that seller, and you help that seller, because that's where
Right.
you develop your relationships. I firmly believe you make deposits, and then when the opportunity comes around, it's going to come back because you did the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the opportunity for us to build a listing inventory is
Mm-hmm.
really, really great right now. To have the right messaging to the right audience. Who needs us right now, and what do they need from us? And
Mm-hmm.
doubling down and going after those opportunities.
Yeah. Good advice. And winding back around to cash offer consultants, there in the last couple of years were so many cash offers. It seemed like they were more norm than somebody getting a loan, because if you didn't have that, you weren't going to get the house or you weren't going to get the property. So were you just
Right.
extremely busy? And how did you counsel your sellers? Did you help them with wondering where they're going to go next with the cash that they would get? I mean, what was entailed? Not all of it, because I know there's a lot, but basically, how is it different? what
Yeah,
you
good
do?
question, Patty. And depending on their needs, really, but circling back to the opportunity right now, because that cash is on pause, do you
Right.
think that might be a great opportunity to get those buyers that were competing with all those cash offers a house right now?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
relatively speaking, the interest rates might be a little bit higher, but Patty, we've been around for long enough to know that we
We
put that
have.
in perspective, right?
Yes. And they're
It's
still relatively low. I bought houses that were much, much higher, so it is hard to know, oh gosh, my friend bought this a few months ago and had a much lower interest rate. So I suppose that went into your mind. But in the big scheme of things, if the prices are going down a little bit and you can get the house you want, it seems like it's a good time.
Yeah, and maybe you have to go a little bit further on the outskirts where there's lots of development here in Tampa. We're seeing the urban
Hmm.
sprawl. So the further we go out, the lower the price is, and we just need to find that win for them. But circling back to your question about, and we just want to make sure that I understand your question. You asked about what it is that we do for the seller when we
Hmm.
consult with them with the cash offer.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And again, depending on the need, I've had several friends of friends or people in my periphery that would call and say, hey, so and so is in contract with this power buyer, and
Hmm.
they've got their inspection and they're asking for a $19,000 price reduction, and that's not part of the contract. And how can they do that? And sometimes it's just having the opportunity to hold their hand to get through that. And there's no satisfaction in saying, I told you so, right?
Oh,
You don't go into contract with a corporation
Nobody
for
likes
profit
that.
without having
Hmm.
a realtor. And I
Hmm.
think we realtors need to get louder about that message, because the sellers are receiving this message. And the truth of the matter is they have more options than ever to sell their
Hmm.
houses. And there are also opportunities for agents to make commissions in selling to these iBuyers.
Hmm.
It might not be as much as the open market, but sometimes it is.
Hmm.
Again, we talked about analyzing the investor strategies to know who to match them with, the seller,
Hmm.
depending on what their needs are.
Right.
For example, I live in a subdivision that has that's very family friendly, and it offers amenities for the residents. And
Hmm.
as a result, we have a higher CDD, a community development dues, and higher
Right.
HOAs here.
Hmm.
And I know that the best outcome for a seller is to place that seller with a buy and hold investor that's willing to pay the market value today, because they will reap the return over time on that
Sure.
investment, right? But
Hmm.
if you throw in those additional CDD fees, those additional HOA fees, oftentimes the numbers don't pencil.
Sure.
So they will get a lower offer, and we can explain this to them that this offer is lower. Yes, it's going to offer you convenience
Hmm.
in a cash offer that you can sell on your timeline. However, Mr. Seller, I think going on the open market would net you X number of dollars more if you're
Hmm.
willing to get it show ready, if you're willing to do open
Sure.
houses, and all those things that we traditionally do as real estate agents to get their
Right.
property sold.
So you really educate them on that. That's wonderful. So they really
Yeah.
know what they're getting into and the different options. So there are no surprises. Well, there's always some surprises, but nothing shocking.
We know that things can go wrong during a real estate transaction,
Sure.
and we know that they do.
Yes, yes. Oh gosh, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today and to understand your business a little bit better. You were so articulate. I really appreciate you being
Oh,
on
Patty,
the Icons of Real Estate podcast.
thank you. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to be with
Oh,
you.
thank you. And I want to have you share your contact information so that if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can.
Yeah, wonderful. And I am actually in the process of a rebrand right now with the cash offers and the A2D that I was explaining to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to give you my general email.
Okay.
The best email to connect with me is Sheryl Sells Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Sheryl Sells Florida at gmail.com. That's Sheryl with an S,
Okay.
SHERYL, Sells Florida, all spelled out, at gmail.com.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Patty. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.